Hi everyone. Welcome to episode 2 of our first session. So far, we have explored the big questions this course is trying to answer. Now it's time to look at what makes this course different from others out there. So let's start with something important. Yeah, something important. We are not afraid to name capitalism directly. We say the C word out loud here, but we also don't get stuck in shallow arguments like capitalism is good versus capitalism is bad, or even capitalism is partly good and partly bad. Honestly, if you ask me, the system is deeply destructive. But we don't say this as a moral judgment alone. So we say it because the historical, structural, and systemic harms of capitalism are real and urgent. So still we avoid getting locked into that binary for a more important reason. Those good versus bad frameworks will shut down thinking or deep thinking. So in this course, we take a closer look at the many phases of capitalism, not just the classic corporate capitalism that you might think of, but also things like, state-managed capitalism, greenwashed capitalism, platform capitalism, and even inclusive capitalism that claims to care about, equality while actually protecting the elite interests. So some proposals are too vague to act on. Others get picked up by corporate or state actors and used for their own ends, like how big tech, co-opted the language of the commons, or how some green solutions end up harming indigenous land. So that's why we need to dig deeper to learn how to tell the difference between surface level change and truly transformative alternatives. So this also means we're fighting on two fronts. As you can see on the slide, on one side, we engage seriously with, progressive alternatives, ideas and movements that push for a different kind of world, feminist economics, indigenous resurgence, the commons movements, the degrowth movement and discourse, regenerative agriculture, and community wealth building. These are diverse and sometimes messy, but they offer rich insights. On the other side, we also challenge reactionary alternatives, like the anti-globalization rhetoric of the far right, who say that they're against big corporations or global elite, but in practice just push nationalism, xenophobia, and climate denial, and practically they represent the interest of another faction of the capitalist elite. Think of Trump and Trump's America First or Make America Great Again, Brexit slogans, if you remember them, or authoritarian populism that pretends to protect the people, but actually they are concentrating power at the top. So we need to learn to tell real alternatives from these dangerous decoys. So that's the uniqueness of this course. It's not just critical, it's transformative. It doesn't just critique capitalism, it demands better alternatives, and it doesn't let those alternatives off the hook either. So let's keep going. Okay, so picking up from where we left off in the previous episode, we said that this course isn't just about being critical of capitalism or even about just studying alternatives. It's also about actively thinking and preparing for the futures that are already unfolding. So, but how do we do that? And that's a $1 million question. So, well, we take a very particular kind of approach to futurism, You've probably seen those glossy, TED Talks or tech blogs, promising smart cities, AI utopias, space travel, or robot-enhanced humans. Um, and on the other end, there's all those doom scrolling about collapse, extinction, authoritarian takeovers, etc., etc. But here's the thing: both of those extremes often distract us from the actual forces that are shaping the future in the real world. So we don't start with fantasy; we start with reality. Future studies in its basic definition is about observing current events and trends in the past and using them to anticipate what's coming. But in this course, we ask, what kind of futures are being built and by whom? And what powerful actors, governments, corporations, media platforms are shaping our options? What struggles are people engaged in, right now to push back, to offer alternatives? So for example, instead of dreaming about future where AI solves everything, every problem, we look at how AI is already being used to concentrate power, displace workers, track populations, fortify, constant surveillance of the citizens, and reinforce, existing inequalities. But we also ask, how are communities responding? Who is developing alternatives, people-powered tech models, or demanding democratic controls, or take the example of climate change. We don't just explore climate apocalypse stories or hopeful greenwashing visions. So we look at the actual struggles, from indigenous land defenders to fossil fuel divestment campaigns to degrowth movements, etc., etc., that are shaping what's possible next. And these aren't future dreams; these are active struggles over the future. That's why we say the future isn't something that arrives; it's something that's made. It's being made right now, unevenly, yes, often invisibly, yes, and in ways that benefit some while harming others. So our focus isn't what will the future be like, but rather who has the power to shape it and whose interests are being served, and what role do we as thinking, feeling, and acting people or communities want to play in that process. So this course is your invitation actually to start asking and answering those questions, not just as a students, but as people living through a critical moment in history. Okay, I'm done with the second episode, and in the next episode, I'll walk you through the way the course is structured, as well as the way the assessments are structured to correspond with the way the course is structured. So bear with me, and I'll see you in the next episode. You may also take a moment and if you have any questions, please feel free to email me or post your questions on the online forum below the recording of this episode. Okay, I'll see you soon.